We're back, despite the mail that we've gotten that says that we should end this show. And we have some derivative of 7 million or something that's divisible or goes into 7 million listeners each week. But we're back in this Yankees Coast to Coast broadcast. Again, partners in crime, Adam Schneider, Michael Miller.
Hello.
Adam's got quite the array of bobbleheads going. He's got Munson, Gehrig, and who's that other one with the eye black?
You don't like Bucky, but I thought Bucky. I want to bring
Get Bucky off the screen. Just get him off the freaking screen. Get him off the freaking screen. I talked to the Wildsteins. They said, get Bucky off the screen. Who's on top of Bucky's head?
So that would be the Kramer.
Oh, yes. Kramer.
Kramer knows. All right, that okay? So here's the deal. I don't want to upset you, Mike.
Lou and Munson are always welcome. Kramer's always
We don't want to upset the talent, so my apologies.
Yeah, I just don't want Bucky on the screen ever. And as a matter of fact, in defense of Bucky, I will say my friend Todd Goober, who is a regular listener and Red Sox fan, does not want Bucky F and Dent on there either. So anyhow,
back on the show.
Yeah, put him.
All right, so what are we going to talk about today, man? We got a lot going on. Big week.
All right, so here's what we're going to do today. We and Adam have been doing our ferocious planning like we always do. Not
10 minutes before.
Not even today. It was like 6. We're going to talk a little bit about the fantasy camp because we did have our show last week. And we're going to talk after that a little bit about the Yankee uniform change. And then we'll get into the Hall of Fame topic that we wanted to talk about. So we welcome all of our sickly Highlander friends from fantasy camp.
What's going on? Every one of them. It's like going down. It's like a Marcus Welby episode.
I think that they were just making out a little bit too much with each other down at camp, exchanging fluids of all sorts. And that's what caused them to get COVID.
It does happen. Listen, started out with the clap, and then it went on to, it was the kissing disease. What was it called? What was that? Mono. And now COVID. When you get close on a baseball team, things happen. And I want to shout out to the guys. I mean, listen, love is good. Love is real. There's nothing wrong with it. But frankly, I think it has to do with the fact that they did it in a smaller locker room. Apparently, it's a very small locker room down in the minor league side. So the guys were right on top of each other. I'm just wondering if they passed it to the rest of the world.
I'm wondering why Kramer's the only one that didn't get it. Is that because nobody wanted to go Norm? He didn't shower again at camp this year?
There's a rumor that Kramer actually is the carrier. He brought it to camp.
Zero?
The patient zero, that he's bubonic barrier, what we want to call him. So yeah.
I'm just glad that the guys, got back in touch with Amy Sue and let them know that they got COVID, so that Amy Sue can spread the word to everybody else to let them know that it was, an infectious event in so many ways.
It was a great camp. It was a real live one. So no, it's just upsetting they're not feeling well. And we also have never seen so many knees. I mean, everybody's sending pictures of their sore, beaten up knees, wrapped in ice. Scary. Lloyd keeps sending me shots of his knees. It looks like Benjamin Button. I've never seen anything like it.
Lloyd's lost like 100 pounds. I would think his knees are grateful they don't have to carry that weight on anymore. His knees should be the strongest in the team.
Mickey Reeves still calls him chubby or tubby.
He's not, though. He's thinner than us.
He looks like $1 million.
Yeah.
So. All right. So
hey,
yeah.
What do you want to say? Hey, wait, we got to send out some congrats to the guys on our teams. They won lots of awards.
We had a lot of award winners. Yes, we won the Babe Ruth. Wayne, our new the rookie, came down, and I knew this guy was going to win because I heard him in batting practice, and it was one of those things. It was like when Bernie Williams got in. About 5 years ago, we were doing a Yankee Stadium event, and everybody was taking batting practice, and it was just the usual pud knockers trying to hit a baseball and not doing it very well. And Bernie is there, and everyone says, "Hey, Bernie, why don't you go up and hit a few?" And he's like, "I play guitar now. I don't play baseball." And he goes, "Come on, Bernie, go up and show us a few things." No. And then he finally went in, and the first pitch comes in, and the sound coming off of his bat. What, Bernie, 50 years old now? I mean, the
Yeah.
ball exploded off his bat, and it told us a little bit about what these guys do with their hands. Even
I aimed for his bat when I threw the ball. That's what happened.
there it is. Thank you.
He
You did
couldn't
it.
touch me, but I had to aim for the
No,
bat.
not at all. Not at all. Were you pitching, or was it? Well, I think it
I
might have
don't
been.
know.
What's it?
I
It
don't
was.
know.
It was actually DeMayo throwing his 7-mile-an-hour fastball.
I don't know. I know that I do know that when you do those events, you got to aim for let the guy take a practice swing so that you can aim for his bat, like when the little kids are playing coach pitch baseball out here. So
But
we have a guy who won the Babe Ruth. Who else won awards?
so
We
the
had three
Babe Ruth
All-Stars.
Award, it sounded like an explosion off his bat. I said, "This guy's going to win something. He's going to hit something." I'm surprised he didn't go. I mean, I thought he was going to go long, but he didn't.
Did they have the 180-foot fences like they did in the November
Yeah, I
camp?
think so, but I don't think they played in those fields this year. They did have it. I went and played on one during practice, and it was a riot. I said, "This, you've got to be kidding me, guys! I mean, an embarrassment. 180-foot field. I mean, it was just
And
nuts."
we had three All-Stars too, right? Who were the All-Stars?
We had the Catros, and I believe Paul Boland also is an excellent player who did not play last year on your team. And that great guy who did well. And then
The most prestigious award at camp, as far as I'm concerned, and a guy that well deserved won it.
yeah, and yes, it was our friend
Arnie.
Arnie came through, won the Lou Gehrig Award for character. Or is it the Hunter? Sorry, the Hunter
Catfish
Award.
Hunter. It was Catfish
Catfish.
Hunter Award.
Which is for character. This is the guy who sort of makes everyone feel good and sort of is the reason we're there. So, to me, that's the one that's hardest because it's all the fans and all the fans, all the players at camp who come together and vote for him. Arnie's a great guy.
Well
Arnie's a
deserved.
special fellow. So we love him. He's one of these guys you just can't not like. You just have to. You gotta. He makes everyone feel good. He's a very relaxed person, and I just love playing ball with him. He led off for me, and I would bat second, so he was on base a lot for me. So if I ever looked good, it was partially and hopefully because Arnie scored a lot of runs. So fast guy, also great marathon runner. I think he's done
Yes,
the
New York
marathon.
City Marathon last year.
So great job, guys. We don't always get awards. It would be nice if we would have some Hall of Fame entries. That would be nice. Our camp has a Hall of Fame, so that would be nice if folks would be recognized as some people who deserve.
We could blame Lloyd for that since he's the only Hall of Famer on the team. We might as well blame Lloyd for not
As
using
a
his pulling it. Maybe if he was heavier, he would pull his weight a little bit more.
Lloyd doesn't vote for us. That's exactly right.
He should be. When he weighed more, he had more weight to carry it with the Hall of Fame voting.
Thanks, Lurd. I call him Lurd.
Yes,
Lurd.
Anyway. So that's it. That was a good camp, though. Everybody seemed to have a good time. I mean, there was a little bit of confusion being on a different location while they did the construction in the traditional players' locker room.
It's all right. I'm sure they loved it.
And I'm sure DeMayo made sure everybody knew where they had to go.
Yeah. Yes. And Lenny. All right. So good camp.
Well, wait, I have something. This is for all of our Hall of Famers and everybody. So let's give them this. 1 second. I guess I should have had it set up better. My bad.
Very good. Very smooth.
Yes, very smooth.
Forward like a pro.
Round of applause for our award winners. Anyhow.
Anywho. All right.
So
Moving right along.
Story. Since the Yankees are doing absolutely nothing as far as the hot stove goes, of course, this is Thursday, so after our show, something's going to happen.
They'll close Snell tonight.
Well, I'm not even going to talk about it because they've done nothing.
But they're not going to do anything either. I think they're done, and it makes sense that these guys are overpriced. They want too many years and want too many dollars, and they're not. And the Yankees aren't there now. They feel they can do it. The Yankees feel they're. You know what the Yankees are saying right now? That you're getting the sense that they feel it can't go this bad again. Like people aren't all going to get hurt. So I think they're feeling the Yankees are playing this old. Come on, it can't happen again. Not 3 years in a row. Guys, it can because you got a lot of injury-prone guys, so that's what happens. But listen, I like Stroman. I'm actually liking the Stroman deal more and more because I think that he's kind of guy. He's got a chip on his shoulder. He's only
He
5'9".
takes
I
the
love short
ball.
pitchers
He
because I'm
takes
a
the ball.
short guy. I'm a
Well, yeah,
short
I
guy.
mean, the biggest problem they have still in the rotation is the two guys that were hurt last year in Rodon and Cortez.
Mhm.
The fact that Schmidt threw more innings than he's ever thrown, and the cyborg Cole is a cyborg. He
Yeah.
doesn't get hurt and he goes out there, and then
Don't say
you know,
that.
yeah,
Knock on wood. No, wait a minute.
and then of course now you've got Stroman who generally stays healthy. If they
Yeah.
can get Snell on a short-term contract because everybody fell off the cliff and won't sign him, that would work. I mean, Paxton going to the Dodgers actually takes Snell off the table for them, I would bet. So we'll see. But I didn't want Paxton to come back because that guy does get hurt every year as well.
No, that's not a
But
good.
but anyhow, the big story with the Yankees is the uniform change, which we're going to talk about this, and you're much more impressed by this than I am
I
because
am.
all they really did is take the little white outline away from the names from the numbers and the name New York on the visiting jersey. They haven't done anything other than go back to a jersey they used to have. So they didn't change the color of the NY, which was a different color blue back in the day, but all they did is take out the white outline and the white stripe off the sleeve, which was always confusing because I felt like somebody died every year because it always looked white, black, white.
That's I always looked for it. That's how you always
Yeah,
know. You're thinking, wait a minute, is that the sleeve or is it Yogi? No,
right.
Yogi get an 8. No, but it was, yeah. You were wondering about the patches, and they've been moving away from those also, the sleeves. So with numbers and JMS and whatever, but
But
like other teams,
I
other
think the
teams,
sleeves without the stripe on them will look is the biggest portion of the change that we'll see. I
yeah,
really like. I mean, I like the look better. Don't get me wrong, but it's not like they overhauled the uniform, which I don't think they should do, and I don't think they should put names on the jerseys. But you know, they just basically went back to a pre-73 jersey.
yeah. All right, so they did 1972. The Yankees had up to 72. They played with it was block print. Um, They also changed the numbers a little bit, which people don't really know. The numbers of the uniforms changed somewhere. If you look at the 1950s number, the number 7 was a little different than it was later. So they added more another blocking. I don't know. That's just some of us are into the uniforms. We've got a friend who's a friend of the show,
Frankie.
Frankie, who is even more into this than I am. He'll notice like the socks. Like he gets mad that guys are wearing different colored shoes. I find it annoying, but I don't really care. But he's a traditionalist, and there's nothing wrong with that. That's
I
okay.
think that personally, I think that they should have put the fantasy camp folks in charge of the uniform and on the
Then
numbers.
they'd have
And
iron on. Yankees are wearing iron on uniforms. God, for those of people who run Yankee fantasy camp who are listening to this show right now, we
obviously,
know that we will not be welcome back next season. So
wait. So
we might as well say it.
I learned something interesting from the A's folks. Matter of fact, I just learned it on what day is today? Thursday. I learned it Tuesday night um, from the A's folks. When you buy an authentic MLB jersey that has no number on it at a stadium, including Yankee Stadium, but also in Oakland, they are not allowed because of Major League Baseball to put the numbers and the names on the back. And that's because they're only sold in certain places. And if the team screws up putting the name
Mm.
and the number on the back of the jersey in the case of the A's or the number in the case of the Yankees, Major League Baseball would force the team that screwed it up to buy a new authentic jersey. And those things are like, $200. So the
Wow.
teams
Okay.
and Major League Baseball made an agreement that they won't do it. So if I bought an authentic A's jersey and I wanted a number on it
Mm-hmm.
and I brought it in, they would not put it on there for me. I'd have to find somebody to do it because when I won Employee of the Month for the A's last year, they gave me an authentic jersey with a 23 on the back because it was 2023, but they told us we would be able to exchange it for a different jersey with any number we wanted. And when I went to go do that, they told me I couldn't. I was, as you can imagine, I was a big crybaby. But just Tuesday, I learned that they're not allowed to do that. But the changes on the
It's
uniform for the
riveting.
Yankees, I think
It's
it's a cleaner
riveting.
look. It's riveting. But
Uh,
it's
you
another
know,
Major League
listen.
Baseball grab for the money.
I'll tell you it seems to me. I think yes, the Yankees, in an effort to turn a profit,
Not the Yankees.
uh, they have decided that this is a good time to send out some new product. I mean, that's really what it is. I mean, I don't think the Yankees suddenly decide, we want to go to a traditional. Let's go back. No, this is this is a great way to rev up sales. The road uniform is not as popular as the interlocking NY, no question, but it's still, as I see, it's still iconic. Um,
Absolutely.
and it also tells the New York story. And I think the Yankees, rather than going to the city jerseys, which would be an absolute horror, um, this is their answer to do that. And I think it's an opportunity to make some money. But the thing about it, for people to understand, it's not to me that they made major changes. It's just that they made any. I mean, this is not a team that alters its tradition easily. Hence the no beard and long hair thing. Uh, they stay with this. This is what their owner, really the guy who still to this day is the Dalai Lama of the Yankees, George Steinbrenner. So nobody's going to change that until the Steinbrenners sell. And imagine that will happen at one point. Ultimately, someone will sell the team. But listen, when they're worth $10 billion or whatever it is, maybe they'll think about it.
Well,
So,
I mean, they only spent 12 on the whole team, so what's the big deal? 12
yeah.
million.
So, but I think with the fact that they made they made the change at all is what interests me. That they would do it. I love the look. I like the original. I thought there's nothing like seeing. There's something about. I watched it the other night. MLB was showing The Pride of the Yankees again, which is one of the great baseball movies. Though Gary Cooper looked horrible as a baseball player, clearly never played the game in his life.
He's no Tom Selleck.
And was a yes, correct. It was great. And Kevin Costner. That's another show, one that everybody has. Great movies, baseball movies. But I think that when you see that movie, and you see that it's the same uniform. I mean, that's cool to me. That 90 years ago, the Yankees were wearing the same. Were wearing what they wear, functionally the same, and they're going back to that today with their roads. So why not? Will it look? It won't look like it was in the past when it was
Wool.
Flannel later on.
Personally, the Yankees have enough money that they can go with the Costanza plan and play
I
with
like
the
the
cotton
cotton.
uniforms. And if they shrink, then they could sell them and make more money and get new uniforms every day. But the
Cotton.
Costanza plan would work for the Yankees. So your brother chimed in with my little employee of the month thing. So let's let Big Head get a comment in.
Oh, wait a minute. Hey,
Yes,
Steve,
let's get Big Head's listening live.
Steve is doing well. So thank God.
Okay, guys.
Here he is.
Steve again. If Mike Miller was the employee of the month for the Oakland A's, you got to know that, and that includes the players. Boy, that's one shitty team. I've got to tell you. Oh man, employee of the month. It's like being on the Titanic, Mike. Go going.
Hey, I stayed on the deck rearranging the deck chairs, and by the way, it doesn't include the players. It's employees and front office personnel.
Good one, friend of the show, Steve.
Friend of the show,
FOS.
Big Head Steve Schneider, the rabbi. So
right.
I just figured that was a contemporaneous comment, so we had to let that one in.
Perfect.
I thought that everybody that knows me knows that if the A's are giving me employee of the month, the company's in a boatload of trouble.
Things are bad. So thank you, Steve. Thank you for participating.
We're gonna switch now over to the topic of the day. As everybody knows, the Hall of Fame votes were tabulated and counted this year, and 3 people made it into the Hall of Fame this year. And those 3 people were Adrian Beltre with 95% of the vote, Todd Helton with 79.7, and Joe Mauer, who made it by 4 votes at 76.1%. And those 3 guys made it. And before we get really into it, I do want to say this. The Baseball Hall of Fame is much more special, not in the sense that when you go visit it, it's better or worse than the others, although I do think it's really good. The Hockey Hall of Fame is really good in Toronto. But what's special about the Baseball Hall of Fame is it is hard to get in. That's the whole thing. It's less than 1% of all the players who have ever played Major League Baseball are in the Hall of Fame. And the other thing is when you have a Hall of Fame like Football Hall of Fame, which is a freaking joke to me, where they have to bring in at least 7 every year. What happens when you don't have 7 qualified guys? Does that mean Adam Schneider and Michael Miller are going to make the NFL Hall of Fame one year because there's nobody else left? I mean, it's a joke. It's a freaking joke when you have the 7. We have to have 7. We have to have 7. Just like it was a joke 10 years ago when they had the backlog of all those great players from the 70s 10 or 15 years ago, all those great players in the 70s that needed to make the Hall of Fame, and people were complaining that they didn't have enough room on their ballot because they could only put 10 people in. Guess what? Then they wait for the next season. I have no problem with that. What I have a big problem with is why you have to vote. Why guys get mad when somebody leaves a spot blank on their ballot. If a guy doesn't deserve to be in the Hall of Fame, don't put him on your ballot. You're either a Hall of Famer or you're not.
Yeah.
Put him on the ballot. Don't put him on the ballot. And the other thing that cracks me up is how is Todd Helton or somebody not a Hall of Famer last year and didn't make my ballot last year, but this year he does? Did his stats change? How come these guys, if there's more than 10 qualified guys in a year, I understand a guy not being on the ballot, but that rarely happens. How do you not vote for a guy one year and then vote for him for the next year? There is no more first ballot bias like there used to be, where Babe Ruth didn't make it on the first ballot or whatever. These guys didn't make it on the first ballot. Oh, they're not first ballot deserving. There's none of that anymore. But how does a guy go from not being voted for at all to getting on a ballot? That's a bunch of crap.
Yeah, I sort of agree. I definitely think it's an interesting thing. I think the mindset. I like that they share that they're not required, but they can share their ballot, and then they have to justify. Curry always does this very well. He does
Yeah, he
explain
does.
why he doesn't want to do it. I think Curry's absolutely right about. I do feel bad about Carlos Beltran because I do think that he is being singled out for
yeah, there's guys like that.
blacklisted. Someone has to pay the price for these, these piles of pus and.
But by the way, the highlights from Lowlife's guys all said that when they get mad at people now, they're going to call them all a pile of pus. Since Ezra had that comment on their show yesterday,
it's very descriptive, and as I see it, it works perfectly for certain people. The Houston Astros, and we're sorry again. We don't want to disparage our many fans that watch, friends of the show, that listen in from Houston. So we don't want to offend, but come on. I mean, Carlos is paying the price for a lot of people who got away scot-free and are living their best life, while this guy can't get a job that's any good.
Yeah, they can't get a job is ridiculous.
Mets job, which is terrible. Doesn't get another opportunity. See, the other guys who got canned, they all got their jobs back or a job. Joey Cora, whatever, we always mess up his name.
One of the Cora. It's like the Caro. Listen, the Cora brothers and the Caro brothers, they're the same four guys. I have no idea who they are. I get them mixed up all the time.
Mix them up. I still mix up Steve and Ed. And whenever I do it, he goes, I'm Steve. I'm Steve. Sorry. Mark.
Is that really something for Steve to be proud of, though?
This is a fact.
Beltran got 57% of the vote this year. And last year he got. Nope, that's this year as well. I got to find. I had last year's numbers, but
I think he did go up.
He's going to get in now.
He's going to get in. They think, and this is one where he'll do the Todd Helton next year because they're going to forgive him suddenly. Like people are going to be talking now about how unfair it is. That you see, even Kramer, and Kramer totally agrees. I want to say, look, Kramer, yeah, Beltran in the Hall. So I think the feeling is he's going in. CC's going in on a first ballot next year, and
Ichiro's the only sure thing next year.
I wonder if Ichiro will get in unanimously because he was so great. The only thing against him was that he played in another major league for what 5 or 10 years. So he was an older guy who came in and didn't have the longest career. But
so Beltran, one of 5 players to have 500 doubles, 400 homers, and 300 steals.
I mean, that's incredible to me.
Yeah.
Oh, and I remember when he was fast. I remember when he played for Kansas City and how good he was.
A great fielder.
Incredible center fielder. Incredible. Deserves it. I think he was okay with the Yankees. He was already on decline, but he had great moments with the Yankees as well. And was a solid player, solid performer, but deserves it. I think guys like Andrew Jones will get in.
I think Beltran had 46.5% last year and 57% this year.
That's a nice jump.
Yeah, it's a good jump, and we'll see what happens. He's going.
Now, is Billy Wagner off now because he didn't get in?
No, Billy Wagner's still going.
Because he came up so close.
Sheffield fell off.
Sheffield's the one.
Sheffield fell off after not.
And that's another one where he allegedly used the cream,
well,
or he admitted it.
Let's get into that. I want to get into the PED guys.
All right. So we have any questions here? Do we want to play anybody?
Let me see if there's any of these PED guys.
Yeah, we've got Steve Schneider, talking about the cream here.
Go ahead, play Steve up. You can do that.
Here we go.
Hi guys, it's Steve calling in. I know you guys don't. Adam doesn't think it's realistic, but I just really want them to go back to the vanilla cream, like from the Yogi. That is really.
Was he talking about the uniforms?
The warm. No, sorry,
Really
we misread.
good.
We saw cream, and I thought he was talking.
And we'll see what happens. Take care.
I thought he was talking about Eric Clapton when he was talking about cream. So what do I know? Maybe Ginger.
Yeah,
Baker.
the Yankees had a uniform. It wasn't. It was wedding. Now it's wedding gown white. But back in the day, they used to call it vanilla ice cream green. Vanilla ice cream white.
Well, so, we're only changing the All-Star, visiting uniforms anyhow. So anyhow, I had a great conversation. Now this is going to make you laugh because it was a great conversation with Tanya Sturtz. It was a few years back at one of the camps. I don't think you were there. It was me and Tanya sitting around the table with a bunch of guys. And they were all jumping up and down and screaming about the PED guys not getting in, blah, 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 blah. And Pete Rose should be in, and the PED guys should not be in. And Sturtz and I, and he and I are not seeing eye to eye politically on very many things. Sturtz and I were both exactly opposite. The PED guys, everybody was doing it. You don't know who was and who wasn't doing it at what point. The pitchers were doing it, the hitters were doing it. And it's at a point now where just stop already. Let them all in. I don't care. How does freaking David Ortiz get in on the first ballot? How does freaking Ivan Rodriguez get in? They were definitely both caught. How are they in? And these other guys
weren't they in the Mitchell report? Were they in the Mitchell report?
Yeah. Well, Ortiz got caught after the Mitchell report. Pudge was in it. These guys. There's so many of these guys were in the reports. I'm sick and tired of it. Just let them in or not let them in based on how they did in their careers. I don't care. Caminetti won't get in. His career's not good enough. Brian Downing, who I believe was the first sign of steroid use in baseball when he went from a skinny little catcher for the White Sox to a guy who could swing the bat back in the 70s. I think he was ahead of the game in weightlifting, but I think he might have been ahead of the game in steroids. But
there was who was the one who was crazy? It was Dykstra. I think Dykstra really.
Well, Dykstra also, but Dykstra was Dykstra's the 80s. So, but I'm at a point now where these guys, what they did was wrong and it was illegal under the law. Baseball didn't have any testing, but what they did at least was to win games. The idea was they wanted to be better players, and that's what Sturtz and I were saying was, look, it was wrong, but you know what? So their testicles are in their stomachs. They can't have sex anymore. They're going bald and they have zitty bats. That's their problem. But
Zitty Bat, is that a band member? Zitty Bats?
Yeah, that's the name of a band. We should name our team the Zitty Bats. Anyhow, it's a backs anyhow, but those guys should just get in. Whereas Pete Rose, different story to me.
All right.
Pete Rose should not be in the Hall of Fame. Put everything he did into the Hall of Fame, sort of like when we talked about Roger Maris and those guys. Put their accomplishments in the Hall of Fame. But Pete Rose bet on baseball, and he bet on baseball as a manager. And as we all know, especially as Yankee fans, you can't pitch a reliever 3 days in a row. But if Pete Rose was betting on his team and they had a 4-run lead and the heart of the Braves order was coming up against the Reds, and he wanted to put in one of his closers. What was the crazy closer's name? Got into a fight with Piniella.
Wasn't Norm Charlton? Was it? It was
no Charlton or the other guy. But if he wanted to put
Dibble,
in
Ron Dibble,
if he wanted to put in Rob Dibble with a 4-run lead to protect his bet, or to have him pitch 2 innings to protect his bet, that means Dibble might not be available the next day. That's why Pete Rose should not be in the Hall of Fame. What he did is he played and managed the game based on his bet. And he always bet on the Reds. It's not like he bet against them. I don't have any doubt in my mind. But if he's going to bet for the Reds, he's going to manage to win that game that day, regardless of what impact it might have the next day or the next day. And baseball's played every day. It's not like it's a once-a-week game. So Pete Rose, no to the Hall of Fame. PED guys, in my opinion, just let him in already. I'm sick of this crap.
Okay.
What do you think?
Well, I'm not. I don't care. Sorry. It's what it's like you feel about the uniforms. I'm just, it's a tiring story. I'm tired of it being rolled out like, Guy Lombardo at 95 years old every New Year's Eve. It's like,
I like
it's
Guy.
it's like, come on, man. Yeah. I hear you. The Rose thing, it's painful because what a great player. A-Rod, what a great player. A-Rod could have made it. Um, should,
Bonds too.
should Bond. These are guys that were so great, and they just sullied their legacy. So I hear it, but I'm bored of it, and I'm wondering if we'll ever get beyond it. Now, I guess once that whole generation wipes out. Thank you. Are
Sorry,
you
couldn't resist
disagreeing
being
with me? Is that me? Is that my opinion, or
yes,
that
I'm
these
voicing
guys?
your opinion.
You want me to be more
Opinionated.
expository,
I want you to have
opinionated on this. It's just not one of those things that bothers me anymore. And I think part of it, what's interesting to me is um, that they're all going to age. They're going to all age out. I guess isn't. I mean, obviously Barry and
Clemens.
Roger Clemens are off now.
Yep.
So that'll be interesting. Will they be in later on when the veterans have to make the decision? And I don't know how many years that's away, but that'll be interesting to see when the peers have to vote rather than that's what it is. The Veterans Committee is voted by the peers, not by the
Well, it's not that
right.
now they do 3 different committees and they rotate. They have three
Okay.
different.
I mean that alone.
They have a contemporary committee, an old timers committee, and some other committee. That's how Leland got in this year. Jim Leland got in.
But Steinbrenner's not in, is he?
George Steinbrenner. Not. Let's talk about this. George Steinbrenner deserves to be in the Hall of Fame.
Absolutely.
He's a jackass,
Baseball.
total ass.
Yeah.
But he deserves to be in the Hall of Fame.
Change baseball. The game we play, we the off season that we have now is now because of that's how I look at it. I don't think he's changed the game that's played the way,
No.
but I think he's had an impact on the business of baseball in a way that nobody has in the sport. Charlie Finley also. Finley's not in, right?
I don't think so. I could take a look, but Finley's not in. Boy, was he hated. I mean, it's.
But the guys who were, I mean, Finley was as important to free agency as Steinbrenner was because of what he did to his team.
The Catfish Hunter had to sue to become a free agent.
So,
but Steinbrenner deserves to be. I actually think he might be one of the easiest misses on the Hall of Fame of anybody. Finley's not in the Hall of Fame, but you know who's in the Hall of Fame? Comiskey's in the Hall of Fame, and that guy was the reason for the Black Sox scandal. He wouldn't pay the guys, so they took the money.
Cheapest guy imaginable, terrible, and that's a fact. That's a known fact. Loved for whatever reason, I don't know. Certainly wasn't for winning. The team won those early years, but that was it, right?
He put some great teams together, but he didn't pay the guys, and they decided to take the money.
How many? I wonder how many World Series they won before the blackouts. So I know they won in 18 and 17. No, the Red Sox won in 18. Red Sox won in 18. So I don't. How good could they have been? Does this guy really deserve it?
I'll let you know. But
all right.
So who else?
While you're looking, let's play.
Who do you want to talk about that wants to get in?
All right, we've got some people who are really chomping the bit to get in here. So
go ahead.
Let's play Webby. Want to play Webby?
Yeah, but start with his first one, which is the one that's God knows where it is. I'll do it. I got it.
All right, go for
it. Hey guys, I saw on the MLB Network a segment about the steroid users in the Hall. Alex Rodriguez and Manny Ramirez are the two that they focused on. And the belief was these guys would eventually be voted in because older writers would retire and be replaced by newer writers who would be more inclined to put those guys in. As it turns out, they're not. Voting actually went down.
Mm-hmm. And he's got a second message that is a follow-up.
To expand upon my first message, there were 14 new writers on the Hall of Fame ballot this year. Only one of them voted for Alex Rodriguez, and only 3 of them voted for Manny Ramirez. It seems like the new guard is enforcing what the old guard put in place.
So I will
Out of
say this
respect.
out of respect. I think I will say this about Hall of Fame voting and the people who vote for the different awards in baseball. My son Max, who has a show on the Mic'd Up app, does one every once in a while for covering the San Jose Sharks. He is a member of the Hockey Writers Association, and he's going to be voting on all the awards for the Hockey Hall of Fame and things like that. And he's only 25. No, he'll be running for the season awards, not the Hall of Fame, because he hasn't been in the union long enough. But he's only 25 and he's voting on it. So these younger guys that are being added to the ballot voting are actually guys that have been around for a long time, because you have to be in the Baseball Writers Association for X number of years. So while they're younger than the guys who retired or died, yeah, but they're going to show respect to those earlier people, because that's just the way baseball is. But I think the players, when they get to them, as you said, Adam, I think that A-Rod and Manny, two of the greatest players ever to play during our lifetime. And Manny played that great joke on me, but they deserve to be in the Hall of Fame. And I just feel I'm done with this PED stuff. So
I think it's gonna age out. I think inevitably, even though we just learned that they're not, I think that we'll ultimately move on. We'll move beyond. We're still a little too close, it feels, and but you know, it's a very interesting question, and because
getting back to the other issue is the White Sox won the World Series in 06 and in 17, and then again in 2005.
So I mean, really? So they won 2 series, and he thinks, and then he gets. What did he do? They got him so.
Comiskey didn't get in any trouble at all. He didn't get in any trouble at all, Comiskey. He was the owner of the White Sox that wasn't paying the players, so the players went and took all the money from the gambler. Rothenstein, I think his name was.
There was Rothstein, yes, famous.
Rothstein, that's what his name was, yeah.
Rothstein, one of the great Jewish mobsters. That's it.
So yeah, so Steinbrenner is a guy that we think should get in. Who else do you think? Let's keep it Yankee-centric.
All right. So we've got some people who are asking about Munson, and let's play the Munson. There's someone who got a lot of really good questions here.
Where's the Munson one?
It's Steve again.
Your brother, Big Head, has a lot to say today.
He's feeling better.
Oh yeah, it's Steve again. And by the way, I mean, let's talk about the Hall of Fame. The fact that Thurman Munson isn't in now, I mean, Mauer's numbers, not quite as good, and quite honestly, Mattingly's are the same. So this is ridiculous, and it's time to get them both in. Munson probably more likely sooner because of all the movement for him, but it's ridiculous. Take care, guys.
I would have to strongly disagree with your brother with regard to Munson's numbers being better than Mauer's. Joe Mauer won 3 batting titles.
Yeah.
Won Gold Gloves, played catcher for 9 years. Won Gold Gloves as a catcher, moved to first base, won Gold Gloves there. So if we look at Joe Mauer's numbers, right, and we look at Munson's numbers. Now, Munson obviously was very much hurt at the end of his career. If you go by WAR, Munson had an 11-year career, right? So his WAR for 11 years was 46.1. 46, whereas Joe Mauer's in a 15-year career was at 52, right? So Munson hit 292 with 113 homers and 701 RBIs using traditional stats, whereas Mauer had 143 homers, a 306 average, and 923 RBIs plus 52 stolen bases. His OPS plus was 124. Munson's was 116. I would argue Mauer was a better numbers guy than Munson was. Mauer, didn't they win a couple of World Series with Mauer on the team as the captain?
Yeah, 90 and 91 and 92.
Yeah,
right?
I think that
91 and 92.
And I think it's a fair comparison.
Or 88 and 90. Something like
that. It's a fair comparison because it's catcher to catcher. But, Mauer, I think Mauer was slightly better player. Now, I would also argue that I don't know that Mauer was a Hall of Famer because I don't think it's the Hall of Very Good. I think it's the
Hmm.
Hall of Fame, and guys like Mike Mussina should be, and Jim Cott were very good players, but Hall of Fame,
Hmm.
I don't know. You know,
Yeah.
and I think it's one of the few times that in my life, when it comes to different things, it should be when in doubt. The answer should be no, not when in doubt. The answer should be yeah. Let's be
Do
nice
me
to
a
the guy.
favor. Take a look at something. Take a look at Ted Simmons and tell me what you think about
He's
his.
another interesting. He's another interesting fella. So Ted Simmons was a terrible catcher, but a fantastic hitter.
Yeah.
Fantastic hitter and a switch hitter to boot. Right. So Ted
Hmm.
Simmons had a lifetime average of 285 and a WAR of 50, but his career was 21 seasons.
Yeah.
So a 21 season WAR with a 50 is he's also 285, 248 homers, 1389 RBIs, OPS plus of 118. He's another guy who I don't think should be in the Hall of Fame.
And so I'm saying he compares well to Munson in many
He
ways.
compares very well
Um,
to Munson. I think Munson actually probably has an edge over Ted Simmons in my mind.
so that's it. Munson's biggest problem is longevity. I mean, 11-year career is hard. Played on some pretty bad Yankee teams, not bad
Oh,
teams, but they were
terrible.
unknown Yankee teams of the 1916. I think he came up in 70. Was it 70,
So he
69 or
came up in
70?
69. He had a 26 game appearance in 69.
All won the Rookie of the Year in 70.
Yep.
Um, won all of he
MVP.
won the MVP in the World Series and won the MVP in 76. Won the World Series. Did he win a World Series MVP?
He had
No,
no, because
no.
they
But he had
lost
a
in
great
76. But he
series.
had seven All-Star games, 3 Gold Gloves,
Yeah,
and a Rookie of the Year.
and and was not I never sensed that Munson was on the decline, though he was injured a lot towards the end.
Oh, he was
So
on the
it
decline.
had to be he was beaten up. But
Well, look at
I
all right. So here's this is another thing with Munson. Okay, so listen to these games played numbers for a catcher:
oh
72, 140, 73, 147, 74, 144, 75, 157, 76, 152, 77, 149, and 78, 154. Now, granted, he DH once in a while, but look at the number
when
of
was the
games he
last time
played.
the Yankees had a catcher that caught and not like that now where they have the split lefty righty shit they go on, but the way when the Yankees had a full-time catcher, he was the only guy behind the plate, probably
Right.
Sanchez. And what was that, what, maybe 125 games? He'd always get hurt. Maybe 125 games. um
Yeah,
that
it's
to me is the great distinct, that to me is such a so emblematic of that era and what's wrong with baseball today. We should have a meeting, a show about that, about these players, how little they play compared to the guys who came before, guys like Nettles who would play
Roy White.
White, who'd play these guys would play hurt and broken and still perform. Now the it's a joke because they're such an asset, but and it's sad because the fans don't get to see them, which is really the reason that we do this. But
Sanchez's numbers,
but
by the
no,
way, are uglier than you think. Sanchez, the
who
most games Sanchez ever played, Gary Sanchez ever played for the Yankees in a season was 117, 122 in
and what was
2017.
that? And that was like
And then
his
he had
great his
117
best.
games in 21.
And
And
that just shows. I mean, part of it was that he was so bad behind the plate. They needed to put some. None of the pitchers wanted to throw to him, so they'd always have to go
but
to.
that's all games, DH and catching. That's what's
Oh, that's
amazing.
terrible. How many catching games? How many games to catch?
Um,
Probably 30 less,
I
20
can
less.
find that if you're really desperate to hear it.
I don't really want to. That's okay. I think that's it's upsetting.
110 games caught is the most he ever had as a Yankee.
Yeah.
And that was a
So
21.
it says a lot, but they don't do that anymore. The fact that he played those kinds of games, it explains an 11-year career that was on the decline, not the fact that he died suddenly in a fiery air crash. It was terrible. So, but the thing was that after 11 years, he was beaten. I mean, you saw him. He
All
was
right,
more
so
injured, playing more first base.
here's Munson's catching. You ready? In his career, I can give you all 11. 125 and 70, 117, 132, 142, 136, 129, 118, 136, 125, and then he got 88 in the last year when he was hurt. So
When
he
he
was
was hurt.
scratching.
What do you mean?
Those last year, I mean, he was hurt all the time, but that's beside the point.
But he died. He died in August. So even then he died August 2nd of '79. Right. He played 88 games up to the point where they only played maybe 110.
Yes, he played 88
You know,
games.
so even then, even in the year where he was hurt and died, he still played more games than Gary Sanchez.
But is that an excuse to miss the games? That's what I want to know.
Come on, Diana might be listening. Come on.
Okay. So anyhow, let's get a comment from our friend Joseph Osti.
On the Hall of Fame, I have no problem with Beltre and Helton being inducted this year. Mauer, I have a little bit of a problem with him being on the first ballot as an inductee, and Yogi Berra didn't get into his second or third time around. Gary Sheffield definitely should have been inducted, especially on his last year of eligibility.
Well, it's nice that Joe was obviously running someplace while he was talking to us. Is this
he's taking that? He's got his mall. He's mall walking.
Yes, he's mall. You know, when you're 192 years old, all you can do is mall walk.
Yeah, our boy Joe is mall walking. I'm so happy. Thank you.
I actually agree with him with regard to one thing. I don't agree with is the first ballot thing. That's gone away. You know, way back when Yogi was inducted, back in the beginning in the 70s when he was inducted, yeah, they had that first ballot bias. Guys couldn't get in the first ballot, although Yogi should have been in on the first ballot.
Anyhow, oh my God.
Mauer's, to me, you're either, like I said, you're either a Hall of Famer or you're not. And to me, I don't think Mauer is. I don't think Ted Simmons is. I don't think Munson is, but Munson's ahead of Simmons for sure and definitely close to Mauer. So we'll see what happens.
All right, we've got a lot to play. So
let's see if Robbie Lannerman, I think it is, has anything good to say.
Robbie from the Highlights from Lowlife show here. I think they did pretty good with the Hall of Fame this year. Helton was a bit iffy for me just because of inflated numbers in Colorado, but overall not bad. Pete Rose, all he's got to do is say I'm sorry, he's in. As for the steroid era guys, I know a couple are in, but I think a lot of them are just not going to get voted in. It'll be something for their Veterans Committee, which will have a few of their peers on board that they can explore and look at, and they have a lot more inside information than us.
Yeah, one of the guys that was on the Veterans Committee that was anti-steroid guys for the longest time was Joe Morgan, and he's no longer on that committee because he's passed away.
He's passed away.
So we get, let's do an advertisement. The Highlights on Lowlife's guys show is at 7:00 on Pacific time on Wednesdays on the Mic'd Up app. And yesterday they had a really good show on World's Worst Announcers. And I suggest you give it a listen. It's the combination of four guys sitting around drinking, which always makes it fun, and talking about the cross between pop culture and sports. 7:00 Wednesdays on the
Great show. One of my favorite events to listen to and to call in. We do have some friends of the show who call in. We have Ezra von Ermelstein.
Yes, and then just so you know, for those of you listening live, I should say this at the beginning of the show, but those of you listening live, if you were to hit the microphone at the bottom of your screen on your device, you have 30 seconds to leave a message that would be contemporaneous with the topic. And Big Head Steve Schneider, or Rabbi Steve Schneider,
has learned. It took a while.
He who's feeling better, as we've been saying. He did with some contemporaneous commenting. One other guy that Osti likes to bring up, and I think I agree with him on this one, is Tommy John.
Yeah.
Now, he definitely deserves to be in the Hall of Fame just because of the surgery being named after him. But if you're going to have a guy like Jim Cott, Burt Blyleven, Mike Mussina in the Hall of Fame, Tommy John deserves to be in the Hall of Fame. At the very least, there should be all Tommy John. There should be a picture of every pitcher who's made the Hall of Fame who's had Tommy John surgery. And then you'll realize that surgery had such a huge impact on everything. But his stats are pretty damn good. He went 280 games.
Yeah.
And he missed a few years due to his surgery. One
other thing also I wanted to say, we talked about Helton a little bit here. Helton gets a lot of heat for being for playing in Coors, but he had an 800 plus OPS on the road, so he was
Yes,
not he
Helton's.
was
I
not a
don't have
bag
a
of
big.
balls.
I
He
don't. I
didn't
don't have a
mail
big
it in
problem with
when he
Helton.
go when he do his hotel sales. He was hitting the ball, so that's not a
Larry
bad thing.
Walker's splits changed when he got to Colorado, but he went from hitting 50 doubles to hitting 35 homers. So Larry Walker's numbers changed a little, but I don't really have a problem with him. Another Yankee guy that everybody likes to talk about is Mattingly, right?
Yeah, and we have a question. Do we have a question about Mattingly here, or is it more Munson?
I think it's your son. I don't know. Let's see what little Jamie had to say, and little Jamie has to do with his physical attributes below the waist because he takes after his father.
Hey guys.
Really.
So I think the voters did get it right this year. Mauer, I was kind of surprised he got in first, but also at the same time, his peak as a catcher is up there with any other one. That being said, I think that should also get Munson in at some point. There's definitely people in there who don't deserve it as much, even guys voted in recently. I don't think Scott Rowland is a Hall of Famer. I think that was ridiculous, and that was a whole thing. But yeah, Munson.
Yeah, I agree with him about Scott Rowland for sure. He's another one of the very good.
Thank you, Jameson Arthur Schneider.
Is that his real name, Jameson Arthur?
No,
Schneider?
it's Vincent, but I've always thought Arthur is funny. So I've called
Let's
him
just
that.
call him Artie.
Oh, we got Frankie the Yankee just popped in.
Oh, Frankie chiming in. Here we go. It better not be about the uniforms because then he's just behind.
I think the test for whether someone should be in the Hall of Fame or not is if you have to think about it, then they're not a Hall of Famer. And the one person who should not be in the Hall of Fame, in my opinion, is Bud Selig for many reasons.
Wow.
I happen to agree with his theory, because I said it before. If you have to think, you're out. And Bud Selig, how could he be in and the steroid guys be out? Makes no sense whatsoever.
Yeah.
Turned his back on it. As a matter of fact, he marketed the entire game around those stupid cartoons of Sosa and McGuire and the big muscle guys and Tom Glavine yelling, "Chicks love the long ball." He used that whole thing to his advantage. It's ridiculous. So I agree with Frankie 100%.
Frankie the Yankee. Very good. That's a big thumbs up. Can you give him applause?
So
How about some applause?
Stats. Get into Mattingly. Ready? Mattingly had a 307 career batting average, 222 homers, 1,099 RBIs. Won the MVP in 85. He was second to Roger Clemens for the MVP in 1986. And he had a better year, one would argue, in 1986. His career OPS was 127, but his WAR was only 42.4. He won 9 Gold Gloves.
Unbelievable.
And 6 All-Star games.
The big rub on the thing about Mattingly, and here's the argument. It's if Herbie Puckett, why not? If Kirby Puckett, why not Don Mattingly? A lot of similarities in their game.
Oh, their stats are exactly the same.
So that's a question. And Kirby was beloved in the game. There was no question. He won a couple World Series. Don did not. Don played, 3 playoff games in his career.
I have the stats for the two.
Held against it.
Center field's also, though, a prime position. First base is not. So there's more expectation of offense at first base. But Don Mattingly, since Don Mattingly, the only guy that's even close to him defensively for the Yankees at first base is Rizzo. Teixeira was a joke. So Puckett, ready? 7,800 plate appearances, I'm rounding. Mattingly, 77. So it's very close, right? Runs scored. Puckett batted leadoff most of his career, 1,071. Mattingly, 1,007. Hits, Puckett, 2,304. Mattingly, 2,153. Doubles, Mattingly, 442. Puckett, 414. Home runs, Puckett, 207. Mattingly, 222. RBIs, Puckett, 1085. Mattingly, 1009. Lifetime average, 318 for Puckett, 307 for Mattingly. OPS plus, Puckett, 124. Mattingly, 127. Puckett WAR, 51-1. Mattingly, 42-4.
All right.
The stats are eerily similar.
And how about this? How many strikeouts did Don Mattingly have in his career?
I don't have that in front of me, but I can.
444 versus 965. I mean, he struck out 44 times in 7,000 at bats. I mean, that's incredible. Can you imagine by today's standards?
But it's ridiculous. It's just insane. I think Mattingly compares well to Puckett, and Mattingly won 9 Gold Gloves. Puckett won.
I wonder if Mattingly gets in. Mattingly, I think, gets in. He has to now. He's out, so it'll be the vet. One of the committees will get him in. partially because he's been a decent manager. He hasn't been a terrible manager at all. So he's got that going for him.
He'll be
Who
managing
knows?
the Yankees next year,
He may
not
very well be
25,
the Yankees'
24,
next
20. So
manager.
listen to this guy's stats. Ready? A WAR of 58.7 and 6,300 at bats, 351 homers, 292 lifetime batting average, 1,119 RBIs, OPS of 378, slugging of 534, an OPS of 912, and a lifetime OPS of 156 plus. Adam is switching devices right now, so he missed all my stats, but that's Dick Allen.
No, I hear you. I'm actually here. Can you hear me?
Yeah, so that's Dick Allen's stats. They blow away Mattingly's stats. They blow away Mauer's stats. They blow away Kirby Puckett's stats. They blow away all of these guys' stats. And Dick Allen's not in the Hall of Fame. That's a joke. And that's because the writers hated him. Just because the guy would smoke a pack a day during the games, I don't see what the big deal is. Jim Leland got in, and he used to do that. So Dick Allen should be in the Hall of Fame. Mattingly, I think, will hopefully get in with the veterans.
I think Mattingly will get in under another for other things for another reason, which is good because he's a great Yankee and for a 5-year period there was no better player in baseball for like
it
3 to 5
was
years.
actually six years, 84 to 89. He was 6th in homers, 1st in RBIs, 3rd in hits, 5th in runs, 1st in doubles, 3rd in batting average, 1st in slugging, tied for 2nd in OPS plus, and 7th overall in all of baseball for WAR in that 6-year window for people who had 3,000 plate appearances during that time. He was the best player in baseball, arguably, for 6 years.
Yeah, there's no question.
I mean,
so I do have to get moving. So I think we're at the end of our show.
I think we hit it. We have no idea what we're doing next week, but we'll figure it out. Maybe by
we always find something to talk. And people can always, are welcome to share what they'd like us to talk about. Our many thousands of fans. You're welcome to reach out and tell us what you'd like to hear us talk about. We very proud to be here because we serve you, the community,
the millions of fans that we have.
And I also want to thank my compatriot, Mr. Miller, as we all know him.
Miller, A.H.
Miller. And for really preparing for this one, because I have been a little bit busier with some work matters, but you really went out there and pulled the stats together.
And I'm angrier than you, so it comes out as prepared when I get really angry. So we'll see what happens.
I would not have made the connection, but that's fine. If you'd like to, you're welcome to. Anyway, folks, have a great night.
Have a good one. We'll see you guys.
I'm off to play baseball
on Coast to Coast. Bye-bye.
Coast to Coast.